Raise the vibe, the clock hits 8. No filters here, just talk that straight. Laugh so loud, they can shake the gate. Facebook fam always pulling their weight. We hit live, roll out the streets, we roam. Truth in the mic, we don't play clone. Real ones know this is where it's grown. No bravado, just a real top zone. No bravado, that's the code. We go live and we unload. Real talk flows, never slows. Facebook crew, that's the road. No bravado, no disguise. Tuesday nights, we energize. Truth and laughter, we baptize. Tune in fam, we're on the rise.
Hello. Let me add Spotlight to the chat. Good evening, Spotlight listeners. How are you? How is everybody? Good to see you back, ladies. How is everyone, firstly?
I'm doing well. I'm doing good. Thank you.
You're
Thanks
doing
for having
well?
me back again. Yeah, it's good.
No, it was a really good show. I got a lot of good feedback from people saying that it was a really interesting show and that it touched some nerves, really. So
Yeah.
you know, a lot of food for thought and for people to go back and have a real kind of look, because I guess going into I'm 51 now. I just got used to being 50 and now all of a sudden I'm 51. I'm like, what is happening? You know what I mean? But going into your 50s and still trying to have these conversations and still trying to figure these things out, it's needed, I guess. And I would also like that if younger people watch this, that they start to do the work earlier
Yeah.
than than later. So and we've got quite a wide range of, like, in terms of audience, in terms of people who watch us on both Instagram audience is a lot younger than they are on Facebook, and I think that's because Natalie's more active on Instagram. So if we tag her, they then follow No Bravado. So, and Natalie's 10 years younger. So there's a lot of people on Instagram
Yeah.
who are in like a 10-year younger bracket. So it's interesting. So I definitely think it's important conversations. I'm really glad that we're having them. Not every day that we kiki. But before we go into the show, I want to pay respects to the 3 black women that were found in Brighton dead. There's a lot of things floating about online. Some people think it was a water sacrifice, like just different things floating about online. But in terms of official news, there is no real kind of, they're not treating it as suspicious. There's no real kind of information out there yet. I'm not even sure if they're going to really investigate, because I don't think it's that important when it's us. So yeah, my condolences to the families and to those 3 young ladies. I would love to know what happened. I don't think that it's as simple as they just went out and took a swim. It's not something we would do.
No, I'm not buying into that either.
And, like, my mum's in the background saying black women don't swim in this weather.
No.
We don't.
In the sea.
So, we don't.
No.
So anyway, good night, mama. Love you. Bless her. But yeah, it's not as simple as that. It really isn't. So hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it. I don't hold much hope that there's going to be big investigations to figure out what that's about. But condolences, my love and my light goes out to them and the family. So, Eve, we all know Donna. Donna's a seasoned No Bravado panelist, where so she's, everybody knows. But I want you both to introduce yourself and what it is that you do. We'll start with you, Eve, as you are relatively new here. We're going to change that, but you're relatively new.
I'm open and welcome to the change. Hi, I am Eve, also known as Kemi Love. I've got many hats. I'm an artist, and I'm an accountant, and I am a rapid transformational therapist. Yeah. And I love everything to do with the mother wound. I love working with women as well. And the mother wound, which we touched on last week, is a pattern that has been transferred from generation to generation, and it's still here now. and it's still being transferred. And I'm here to bring awareness to the mother wound, how it's manifested, and how we can heal it. Because I know that we
Right.
can get caught up into the hows and the how it got here and what's happening and all that side, but also want to touch on the healing of it as well.
Right. So for those who don't know what a mother wound is, we talk about daddy issues, so it's literally the equivalent to that. So let's explain in a nutshell, what is a mother wound in your opinion?
It's an inherent wound passed on from mother to daughter down the
To
mother
daughter.
line. Yeah, it's passed on. It is
Before I
passed
ask,
on,
yeah, go on.
it is passed on through men, but I'm speaking about the
Just about to
women
ask.
right about now.
Yeah, right. I was
More
just
about
about to ask, is it passed on
yeah.
through men as well? All right, before we move on, Donna, everybody knows who Donna is, but come on, let's humour me.
Wait, what do you want me to say? Good evening, everyone. Did you want me to say something in particular?
No, just you are what you do.
Oh. I do lots of stuff, but right
Absolutely.
now, I was thinking actually when you were talking about the three women, and I'm glad that you kind of led the podcast with that this evening. That's been on my mind all day.
Day,
What do
man. It
I
made me
do? Yeah, it's a lot. I do a lot of stuff. Right now, I'm a deputy service manager for a brand of care home providers. So I manage 2 girls' homes, which is just a whole Oprah show within itself.
I used
I'm
to do it myself, so
right, so it's
yeah.
very, very interesting. But with regards to the with 3 black women who lost their lives, I'm a domestic homicide and domestic abuse related deaths author and chair. So this really does interest me because the lack of curiosity on the part of the Metropolitan Police. I'll be having that conversation in other spaces, but so everything, the mother wounds, it just my work with women over the last just over a decade. Yeah, I'm not a qualified therapist, but I understand how the word is epitomology, isn't it? How these things are passed down
Right.
through DNA and all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm back for part 2. I'm very excited, to be fair, to continue the conversation.
Yeah, likewise.
Right. Oh, Natalie's here. Hi, Natalie. Evening, sugar plum. So, all right, let's get on with the show. Good evening, Dion. How you doing, Bubs? Krishna? Joanne says hello. Hi. Thank you for being here. Hello, I'm here. Yes, we see you. Hi. Thanks for being here. Okay, mother wounds. So I think we got from question 1 to 6, and that took us 2 hours. And I think I had something I had something like 26 questions, which I doubt we're gonna all get through. We're gonna get through all of them today. But if another part is required, another part is required, because it's, like I said, an important conversation that should just be continued anyway. Tonight's topic, Krishna, is mother wounds and how they're passed on from mother to daughter. Like, so the last show we spoke about, well, let me just start with it, because this is kind of where we ended up, is can someone have a good mum and still carry a mother wound?
I wanted to, I think we did address this last week, but I wanted to come back here and just make this clear that this is about awareness.
Yeah.
It's not about blame. I love my mother. I am so grateful for my mum and everything that she does for me and still continues to do for me. I'm sure
Right.
everyone else, has similar sentiments about their mother. However, and my mum's done her her absolute best. She's done her
With the
best.
tools that she was given, right?
The tools that she was given, she's done her best. So this is not about me blaming my mum for absolutely anything. This is about awareness and a responsibility that is now mine, because I'm a grown adult and it's taking responsibility. It couldn't be helped that this wound was passed on through generation to generation. So it's not about blaming mothers. So yes, you can definitely 100% have a good mother, be a good mother, and still very much carry a mother wound.
Right.
Because although my mum personally was doing her best, some of the things that she was doing her best, they don't serve me. And it took me years to actually acknowledge that.
Right.
Actually have compassion for my mum, because that's all she could do. That was the best my mum could do. Have love and compassion for my mum, but also have love and compassion for myself, to know that these things don't serve me anymore.
Yeah.
And I need to take responsibility and heal. So I just wanted to go back over that again and just make it clear. This is not about blame. Blame gets us nowhere. And we've all got somewhere to go.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Don?
Yeah, I feel that it's something that is, especially going back to our cultural context, it's something that it's either or. And I think that, maybe because we're older, but I would definitely agree that when I was younger, I held, I have a mother wound, and it took for me to begin studying at an academic level that I began to see my mother for the woman she was, and not as my mother. And that then allowed me to take into account all of her context at the time. And then, she was a young woman. She wasn't born in this country. While she was highly educated, at that time in the 70s, Black people's access to services and whatever, she wouldn't have had it. She wouldn't have known where to go. She additionally had, a disabled child. And then shortly after that, another child. These are 3 children she has, with a toxic husband, covered under the bureaucracy and covering of Black church, and all of that came with it. So, just kind of taking into consideration. It's funny because I have a talk that I deliver, and the title is "Mothers Who Collude with the Sexual Abuse of Their Children by the Fathers." And the reason that I made that talk, that was almost for me to really kind of speak about mother wounds without naming them, and to encourage people to try and see their parents, their mothers in particular for women, as women, and all of the things that we face, rather than our mothers with all of these expectations that we have as a child, right? To see your mother, as I said, take away that relationship of being, this is my mother, and actually seeing your mother as the woman she was in that time, with all of the context around her. And it really helped me heal. It really, by doing my own work helped me heal and understand that my mum was equally coming from, that transgenerational context where you don't speak about certain things, and you don't say, you don't name it, and so it continues in those silent places to go on. But what girl children are told to do is not to speak about it, and you definitely never confront the perpetrator. That's what you don't do, because give it all to God, and if we pray hard enough, and if we fast hard enough, and if we do all of these extra things in worship, then these things will go away and the perpetrator won't strike again. And so I think this is very interesting, and I just like to mention all of those different intersections, because what I don't want for listeners to do, and this includes men in particular, is to think, well, this doesn't apply to me. Because I think sometimes if you don't speak on things necessarily, people will think, oh, well, that they didn't talk about church. That doesn't apply to me. They didn't talk about. Do you understand? And this,
Yeah.
this mother wound. Whilst we're not focusing on men necessarily with tonight's discussion, but understanding the context around your parents and forgiving them for understanding what they, they were limited, is part of the pathway of healing yourself
Yeah.
before you go on to repeat these things in your own relationships with your own children.
With your own children.
Yeah.
I agree.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. How does the mother wound actually show up in adult life without people realizing?
I think one of the classic is saying yes to everyone else
And not yourself.
and not yourself, saying no to yourself, when in actual fact you should be saying no to everyone else and yes to yourself. And that's something that, I mean, I used to do it, not understanding or not knowing why I did it.
Right.
So second guessing yourself, not understanding your own worth and value. So
Yeah, it's a bit.
we're business women going into business, or if we're going into work and we are sabotaging, asking for pay rises or doing the most and not being recognized for it, or self-sabotaging in our businesses and not charging what our worth is.
Right.
Or going into a space, you go into an event and you're adjusting your prices according to the event, rather than I'm going to walk with my worth and my value. I know that I'm giving value to, potential customers. So I walk in with my prices set as they're set, regardless of whatever environment I'm in. So
Right.
these are the ways in which, some of the ways in which the mother wound shows up in adult life, and you're not really realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
I
Go
think
ahead, Dee.
over explaining is something that we
That's
do.
another one.
Yeah, over explaining yourself because you've never been believed, right? So rather than just saying what it is, not only do you people please, as Sis has already said, you put the interests of others ahead of yourself. You also find yourself over explaining to be believed because you've had a childhood, or there's your trauma response is to explain everything down to the bone, something I'm very guilty of, because
Right.
you've spent a childhood where you've not been believed, right? Or your voice, it doesn't even have to be that you've not been believed, or your voice just hasn't been heard. So to justify your existence, to place value on yourself, you come out with all of this stuff, which is unnecessary, but it's your way of placing value on yourself in an expression of I've never had value placed on me whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think it shows up, and I'll just use myself as an example. It shows up in my relationships. My mother wound is, I don't know why my mother never, is partly, I don't know why my mother stayed with my father so long. I really don't. And so in my relationships, like in my relationships with men, I struggle sometimes to believe them. I mean, I would be justified given that it's 2026 and all the shit we see on social media. However, before there was social media, I struggle to believe anything they say. I struggle to respect them, because my trauma is I lived in a situation where I had lost respect for my dad, but this woman was still staying with this nigga. So it's very hard for me to respect. I can be a male. I can have a male friend to respect them, but in my relationships, I can lose respect like that.
Right.
Because I'm already looking for you to foul. So it's like self-fulfilling prophecy. So as soon as you do something, I'm like,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's not giving something a try. And I don't have to leave to have left, if that makes any sense. I might still be there, but I'm not really there. I have already. I walk into these things with an escape plan, because just let this bitch do one thing and I'm out. So I'm not walking in authentically, and I think this is something that we don't get to talk about, or maybe on a therapeutic level.
Right.
When you don't walk in as your authentic self, you walk in to find fault, or you walk in to hear what it is that you need to hear that tells you, yeah, see, this is right, I'm out. This is also part of the mother wound, not giving yourself, because equally in the relationship is about yourself, right? Not giving yourself or your partner or the person you're interested in that time and that value, because you're just really looking to go at any given opportunity, because it's a trauma response for what you were sat down in, with no will to leave. You had this adult and you were looking at her or him every day and saying, why don't you leave this mess? And they didn't. So your response, now that you do have agency, now that you're the adult, is, as soon as I don't like this, I'm gone.
Right.
And I think it's
I'm
I
kind of
see,
guilty of that.
I feel that it's something that we don't get to speak about as women. How many of us are prepared to leave? Men talk about it all the time. Men was if you're a scroller like I am at 4 o'clock in the morning on social media, you will see men are like, she's already left. And it is a very female trait. Like, we might be physically there, but we've left a long time. We already know the guy that we like next. What holiday we're going on next year, what color we're going to paint the bathroom, but you're right next to the man. And I think that is because so many of us have been traumatized by the relationships, the mother wounds that we've inherited, that's how we just walk about every day. Like, if this trick doesn't work out, I'm off.
Do you know what? I'm just laughing because I'm just seeing a reflection in myself. I didn't even understand why I would do that. When I was younger, I'm gone. I'm left before. I'm already eyeing up the next relationship. I'm gone. I'm left. I'm not here anymore.
I just want to hear. I just want to hear like you raised your voice.
Well, now I still don't play fight. Play fight, what's that? Because it might you might hit me too hard and then I'm gonna get vexed. So
come on now.
all now.
Certain things we don't do, right? 100%.
Yeah.
But no, I think really. For me, just to end on this part, Trisha, but not realizing that in all of that posturing and playing, you're actually ultimately cheating yourself, because again, you're spending years not being authentic. You are not being your real self in that relationship, in that instance. You are carrying a mother wound that is telling you this is not a safe space. Doesn't matter what he says, this person is not a safe person, right? So the quickest thing to do is look for a way out. So always have a bag packed, always have your Vex money, always have your plan B, right? And yes, this is very contextual and we can get into a whole range of things about relationships. But I think the more that I look at it, so many of us are affected. It's become now almost a female response because we are all traumatized. And so we don't walk into these relationships as our authentic selves. We say that we do, but what we're really doing when things get tough is, I'm about to bounce. You know, when you go somewhere and you're there first, Trisha, I'm going to come up to you and say, yo, what's he saying? You'll be like, yo, D, this is dead. I'm like, yo, 10 minutes and we're out. You know, like that conversation.
Yeah.
I know that I've had those conversations with myself in relationships where, I'm pregnant now. Oh shit. Let me have the baby and then just catch him out for some cheating thing. Boom, I'm gone. Like, that's my strategy. When I had that conversation, that's what I lived. That's what I said. And as soon as I saw a couple things, I was like, this is not working because you're obviously cheating. That time I'd left 10 months before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad you said that, Donna, especially about the authenticity and the escapism. I wasn't present in my life either. It's like you just don't want to be here, don't want to be present, and like you did say, safety. It does all come back down to safety, because this don't look safe. Your nervous system is registered from repeat the same cycle, the same pattern. This ain't safe. So you just exit. and we just do it. But if you don't have what came up for me today, actually, which I haven't mentioned, but good to now, is curiosity. We're not curious about ourselves. From what you were saying, Donna, you are curious about yourself. That's how you're able to recognize the pattern that you keep following. You're not showing up as your authentic self, and those have roots in childhood, because children should be seen and not heard. There's no validation for us as little girls, so then we go and seek validation outside, or the house. The energy is just not safe. The amount of ways that unsafe has been reflected to us in our childhoods, then we grow as adults and we just keep repeating the same cycles.
100%.
You don't feel safe. You don't even realize what you're doing.
I really like this part, because this is some real speaking now for me. This is real, right?
Yeah.
Mother wound is also, a lot of us grew up, especially our generation, of Black women, with the emotional and physical labor. So, many women our age group, maybe not us in particular, because this doesn't necessarily apply to me, but our brothers got to stay in. We had chores, right? They could sit down and watch cartoons. We had chores. And the older we got, was the more responsibility it was placed on us. Often from a mother wound, because culturally that's how it's come down, right? We talk about, we look at other cultures, but we're not too far off of it ourselves. If you think about the generations before, there was a responsibility, and how that shows up for a lot of people that I have worked with, and even for myself at times, is I don't do anything unless I have to in a relationship, because as far as I'm concerned, I've already done so much work, labor, as a child, so I ain't doing anything more. Which I know people are going to laugh, but this is where my comment around I can only be with somebody whose parents are dead, because my parents are dead, because I'm really not looking for that labor that was placed on me, that responsibility that was placed on me from an early age. Just I've been an adult from I was 9. I've been working since I was 9 years old. You really think at big 52, I want to sit down and emotionally regulate and help a man build himself? You have to be joking.
No.
So for me, when we talk about models of operation that have been placed on the voluntary labor of Black women, churches, families, communities, talk about mother wounds, right? I'm so glad that my daughter's generation is saying, I ain't doing that. I ain't standing up and frying chicken for 200 people, because I'm not doing that. Mum, they can ask you to make curry, go, I'm not doing that. I like that refusal, and I understand it, because these were things that were placed on us, and then we were given false value because of it. We were good. Oh, you can always depend on Donna Becca. She will stand up and fry 27,000 chicken legs to help you for your 9 night. Actually, you're right. All of these false economies that were placed on our labor.
Yes.
How that mother wound shows up when we're not cooking for these kids. We're not cooking for man again. We don't want to do it because it was placed on us. Very few of us had autonomy to say, yes, Mom, I really want to help stand up here and help you scale and clean up these 2,500 fish. Some of us didn't. It was, you got woken up out of your bed, your dad came back from Billingsgate, and it was expected.
Expectation.
So now that we're older, the way that wound shows up is we do the bare minimum in relationships. Until we feel safe, until this man can show us that we're going somewhere and this means something, we do the bare minimum. Meanwhile, we're highly skilled from very young to do a whole range of things, but we retain that to ourselves, because you know what? That's part of our wound. I'm not doing it. It was placed on me. And until I feel safe, I'm not going to show you that I have this skill set. I'm not going to participate in this relationship to the fullest and my authentic self, because I'm holding that back for myself. And I think what I realized last year was that that's fine, Donna, but actually you're hurting yourself, because I'm not participating in life, Trisha.
Right.
Yeah.
I am performing. I have been performing in my own relationships because it was easy, but I've not been I've definitely not been my authentic self. So
Yeah.
so I really do like this portion of the conversation because this is real, right? How does this wound show up? Well, it shows up because we don't participate fully in relationships. We hold things back. We would probably participate better in our female relationships. I tell you where I am my authentic self when I'm around you lot.
Yeah.
Give me a bottle of rum and 4 cans of Red Bull and maybe a little ice, and I'll be my authentic self, jokes, and I'm living my life that time. But put me in
Yeah.
a relationship that I have to participate with a man who I already think is a bit booky, I'm not.
You're not doing it. So,
Yeah.
firstly, let's say good evening to Rosemary Gabidian. Thanks for being here, my love. Benjamin, I'm not sure if you caught the beginning of what the conversation is actually about, and you've commented, and I don't think you understand what the conversation is about. But he says it sounds like a victim mentality justifying selfishness, but I think he doesn't understand what it is that we're talking about. But thank you for your comment.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next
Moving on.
question. What are some signs a woman might be dealing with a mother wound but just thinks it's just how she is?
Um, being feeling that you need to be responsible for everyone else's feelings. So you'll lose your voice. You won't speak up because you're trying to manage everyone else's feelings, or even trying to manage other people's expectations as well. Another one is like not being seen, not being fully seen. It took a lot. Trisha, you asked me near on a year ago. Was it a year ago? Did we work together to come on your show? And look how long it's taken me to get here.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
It's because of I had to get over the hurdle of being seen and get take myself out of what other people is going to think, and
right. That's a
reconnect
big one for me.
myself. Yeah, reconnect myself with my purpose and my work and what I'm here to do. But
Yeah,
yeah, I was stuck for a while with what will people think, especially with the mother wound, because when you first speak about it, a lot of people are attaching the blame to it, and as well, not wanting to, just like what you said before, Donna, see your mother as a human being, like learning to dissociate the two so you can actually start to see yourself and see what work needs to be done on yourself. Like start to take off those layers so you can show up in any space and be authentic. I had to do the work to be able to sit here right now.
yeah,
The whole thing of not being seen is big as well. Feeling like you're not enough as well is another one. And then many women struggle with that. That is a big root of a lot of women. We just don't feel like we're enough in various different spaces that we go in. Yeah.
Just
yeah,
adding to that point, remember that mother wounds are compounded by patriarchal thinking, right? It's the mother wound is almost like the male. It's part of that patriarchy backs up mother wounds because
Yeah.
it further emphasizes and confirms that there is little value placed on you, and we are talking as free black women, so we already know that in terms of if there was a ladder of aspiration and growth, we are always considered to be at the bottom, and So that understanding that, you know, it's not just a mother wound. Sometimes it's compounded by the fact that in a patriarchal society, you're already seen at the bottom. So there may be less opportunity for you. But I think one of the things that is really strong, and some of the things that we, you know, I see now, I belong to something called TMC, like these different groups that have sprung off of Instagram, where got younger black women to myself that are doing things like they're not just, they're doing sip and paint and they're doing all sorts of things, but there is this whole WhatsApp group. There's like, it's like a movement, right? And it's not, whilst it doesn't have men in it, they're not moving to some exclusionary thing towards men. But this is about sisterhood. This is about support. This is about peer support. This is about conversations. And I'm here for all of it, because in lieu of mother wounds and thousands of pounds on therapy, if you don't have access to that type of, you know, economics, is actually sitting with other black women and talking through these things, because that may be the only therapy that is readily available to you.
Yeah.
But again, realizing that, you know, it's like an onion, there's many layers to it. And equally, it's one thing to expose yourself and say, oh, I have all of these mother wounds and this, but my question to the audience is, given that, are you prepared to do the work once you acknowledge? And so for me, yes, I'm very much more in touch with who Donna actually is. But I had to be prepared to do the work then to make my life, to make me the best version of me, for me. Nobody else, not for these children, not for no man, not for my friends, for me. Because once I realized that I'd been performing for the majority of my life, I was like, yeah, let the next 40 years, Lord, or however long he gives me after 52, let it be then on my terms, in a real authentic way.
Yeah.
Something happens when you hit 50, and it just is a case of, like, you realize you've got less years on the earth than you have more, and it is really about them being authentic and about you being authentically happy. And you can only really do that if you do the work. So like I've said, I've done like numerous kind of bouts of therapy. One of my sessions was with Eve, really interesting session, where you go into hypnosis, and some of the things that were just there that I thought were gone, like you said, Donna, it's just layers. And it is painful, and it does take a certain amount of bravery to do it, because to look at yourself, it's easy to look at other people and see what their faults are, but to look at yourself, it's difficult. I you know, definitely
Yeah.
had to understand where, like, I've got a mean temper, as we've all spoken about, and like I've spoken about my mean temper before, and where does that come from, and why does it get to the level that it gets to? And I can pinpoint that all the way back to, because, like, there was something that was put in our group as well, but I can pinpoint that all the way back to me being 11 and being very placid, very, like, meek, and just, yeah, just not confrontational, none of that. And being bullied up until 11, and, like, my mum saying to me, like, you've got to meet people on their playing field. You're going to have to stand up for yourself. You're going to have to fight back, or they're going to pummel you to death. It just is what it is. You're going to have to figure it out. And there was this girl that she was 16, I was 11. And my mum's a warrior, and she's built me into that. But if we go back to how I authentically am, not really a warmonger. I'm not. Do you know what I mean? I'm quite a placid person. I don't like confrontation, but now I'll have it. If you, do you know what I mean? You start, I'm gonna finish, and that's come from bullying. So, like I said, this, I was 16. I was telling my mum about it, and my mum was saying to me, like, if this girl keeps bullying you, you just have to fold your fist and fight back and fight back and fight back. And that was drilled into me. Anyway, this girl turns up at my school. I spoke to my mum, who spoke to the headmistress, who spoke to the headmistress of her school. And she turned up because she got into trouble, turned up at my school and broke my nose. And I didn't fight back. And I'm not sure what was worse is the broken nose and the two black eyes, or the fact that I didn't fight back. And that moment I heard my mum's voice, fold your fist in, and then I felt like I disappointed myself and just disappointed her. And from that moment, I kind of made a vow that I'm never going to be violated in that way again. So whenever I feel violated physically, the temper, like leave him, make him sleep. Because when I feel violated like that, that 11-year-old girl that didn't defend herself comes
Mm-hmm.
up. I had to pick that apart after losing my temper in Abu Dhabi. I had to pick it all the way back down as to why do you get so angry when you feel violated in that way? Why is your temper so mean? And you're not, you can defend yourself. You're not that 11-year-old girl, and actually you don't necessarily need to get into fist fights or anything like that. There's different ways to manage conflict. Does that make sense? But I come
Mm-hmm.
from a family that's like, nah, kick them in their face. Are you mad? So you know what I mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
was more or less the only one that, uh, mm, but where we come from, if you don't fight back, you do get pummeled. So it's six of one and a half a dozen of the other. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
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 So there has been a lot of work that's been done there. Another big one for me is like it took me well into my 40s to be able to look in the mirror and appreciate what I see and be like, oh, you are actually quite pretty. Come on. All right. You know what I mean? It took me, yeah, because I was brought up in a house that being vain was not good. So, not, yeah, like if you are too much like that, then I don't want, because I remember having a conversation with my mum about it, and she said, I just don't want you to get big headed. So there's a thin line between appreciating yourself and then becoming arrogant. And she just didn't want me to cross that line. So you're always taught to be modest and to be humble and not really to appreciate yourself, because there's a danger of you crossing the line of being, and it's taken me again a long time to unpick all of that, because yeah, it's safer to think you're ugly, I guess. And that, I guess you're told that. Well, I was told that in my family growing up a lot. Out being the only black woman and like the black child. A lot of my cousins, my counterparts were mixed race, so they had long hair, a lot of colorism, and so on and so forth in my family. My mum definitely protected me from that, but then there wasn't a balance of, like, she would say you're pretty and oh and all that kind of stuff, but actually teaching you to appreciate yourself, I think my
Mm-hmm.
mum was dangerous, so I wasn't taught that. I had to then go off and learn it. So those are the kind of
Yeah.
mother that I can, and you lot know my mum's my chargy. Everywhere you see me, you see my mum. I've got the best relationship with her, but there are definitely some teachings that they have from generations that are taught down. And I think part of that is religion, being sure of yourself, connecting with yourself, understanding your spirituality outside of Christianity was just not something that we were taught. So now I'm teaching myself, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Credit to
Yeah.
my mum, she's willing to listen, and she defaults to Jesus Christ, but she's very much open to what I've got to say about my spirituality and how I see things. And that I love about her. So, yeah, going back to question 6, where you were saying that actually it's not about blame. It's not.
Yeah.
You can have a great mum and still have mother wounds. Another thing for me is that my mum, we never really saw my mum in relationships. My mum will stay by herself for years. And guess what I do? Single and celibate for years. Easy. Peasy, lemon squeezy. Seriously. And do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of, like, whereas my mum, I don't think, has a healthy kind of opinion of men, I'm still trying not to take that opinion on. I do think that there are good men out there. I think we pick patterns as opposed to partners. I think that onus is on us, to look at the patterns that we pick and then not blame men
Yeah.
overall. Do you understand what
Yeah.
I'm saying? For, oh, men ain't shit. No, you pick patterns, you pick men
Mm-hmm.
that ain't shit. But there's good
Yeah.
men out there. You have a look at that. So, do you know what I mean? There's loads to look at and loads to address, even now, still. But I'm glad that I'm doing it.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, and
Mm.
it's been, just listening to you has been really insightful
Right.
into yeah, how you've done the work from where you were to where you are now. That's really powerful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, it really
And
is.
it hasn't
I'm
stopped.
just
It
sitting
doesn't
down like
stop.
I'm getting listen. I'm getting closer and closer to my pillows. I have to sit up and just. No, I'm relaxed and I'm talking, and in a minute it's gonna be this, and no, let me set up this podcast. Yes.
It's an informal podcast. We are quite relaxed here, as you know. Um, does it affect? This is, I thought, was an interesting question. Does it affect friendships with other women, like jealousy, comparison, or trust issues? Because I think it absolutely does.
Well, personally, yes. I think it does. Not consciously. I don't think
Right,
some of it is not consciously. Some of it is. Some of them women, they are just straight up jealous, and they need to go and check themselves. But I think it really does have an impact on your ability to have a sistership, because even going back to the patriarchy as well, we weren't allowed to congregate and be together as women, because there's a lot of power that comes when we are together, when we're talking.
right,
We're just, when we're in the patriarchy, I wanted to bring up shame, because it was like we're wrapped in these blankets of shame, and it prevents us from being our authentic self, because if you ever step out of being your authentic self, they're going to just slam you with shame. And a lot of women have to try and get themselves out of that shame blanket that has been put on us. But yes, I think it definitely does affect relationships. I've had relationships with sisters, they come and go. For the whole of my life, I never understood
yeah,
why. They've just come and go, to the point where I'm like, well, if they're here for a season, I'm grateful that they're here for a season. And if they're gone, then they're just gone. Just grateful that we crossed paths, and whatever we achieved or didn't achieve together, lessons were learned, and we just move on. But yeah, that jealousy and the comparison as well. We, in the world, we're always that comparison thing as a woman. You're always put up against. It's something that you have to face. Do we
yeah,
have enough breasts or not? Is our bum bigger? Do we have this? Some kind of something to judge and compare us, how we are physically. This is how
right,
I am. I can't change that. I'm not going to go and buy breasts to satisfy everyone else. Do you know what I mean?
right,
That is what we're faced with as women, the comparison. As soon as we step outside the door, there's some kind of comparison going on.
right.
And we do it within each other. We've been fed survival of the fittest. So we just do it within each other almost naturally, even though it's not a natural thing to do, to have comparison and compare yourself against another. All of us are all unique. We all come with unique blessings, but it's
Yeah.
it's it's woven in. It is definitely a part of the mother wound. Yeah.
Anything to add, Don?
Well, no, I just listened and learned, because that's not my experience. So
Right.
so and I'm incomparable. So I yeah, I don't, that's not been my experience. In fact, you know, when they talk about, but you can't name anybody that you went to, I've got tons of friends from primary school before that, that we're still friends.
Right.
And so, and maybe my experience is different because my mother, I realize now in reflection, my mother is an only child. There are none of the people my mother was an only child, right? So there none of her friends that I've called aunt my whole entire life were actually related to her. These were her friends. Some of them, Auntie Jenny, she came to this country when she was 9. I think Auntie Jenny was 11 and my mum was 9. That's my mum's longest best friend. My mum is passed, but Auntie Jenny's still alive. Auntie Veronica. These are foundational relationships around
Yeah.
sisterhood. And then my mum built up a ladies' club, and at its peak, it was like 40 odd strong. So, and they traveled the world, they did stuff. So for me, Anos and everything I've created, I've basically created on the models of what I saw every day, what I lived, right?
Right.
I've never experienced some of the things Sis said about, you know, comparison. And I think that is, you know, my mum got a lot of things wrong, but one of the gifts that she gave me was an abundance of confidence. Now, I'm not arrogant. I can be
Right.
arrogant, but I'm not arrogant. I don't walk out into the world and feel that I'm my own stylist. Like, I just do my thing in it because it suits me. I don't compare myself, and I hope nobody's trying to be as fantabulous as I am, because you won't succeed. So whilst I hear what Sis is saying, and I have seen this in other spaces, it's not actually my lived experience around, is my breast big enough? Is my bottom big enough? So I must have breast and bottom privilege then. I just realized I must have.
Yeah.
And
You have.
yeah, like, you know, but however, being a bigger, being fat, I mean, I call it bigger, being fat, there are things within that my mother was also fat, right? So being fat has never been a thing for me. Being fat has never stopped me like pursuing men. Being fat has never stopped me from swimming, or my mum never made the fact that she was fat and I was fat a prerequisite for why I couldn't or shouldn't do things. Does that make any
Right.
sense?
Yeah.
In that way, and now I look back and I'm raising my own daughter. I thank her for those things because I pass those on to my children. I don't know what it is not to be confident. I don't know what it is to not lead. Yes, in a way, there is a slight contradiction there, because Donna is also always a responsible person. It's got to the stage now at 52 where I just assume responsibility for something if it happens, because that is my go-to, and that does come from a childhood where constantly burdens and responsibilities were placed on me. But I've accepted it, and actually, I'd rather be at the front than at the back. So hey, I'll do it. Whatever the responsible thing is, I'm good with that. I do see some of the mother wounds, and I've seen this in my works. It's not my lived experience around body types and body shapes. Especially if, say, mum has been small or grandma has been small, and then now the granddaughter is not small. I have seen some of that. I'm not enough. I'm not gorgeous. I'm not, you know, I don't like me. I've seen that a lot. I've been in homes where, you know, I had a mum who was like, I think at the time she was like 52, and I was in my 40s at the time, and she said to her 11-year-old daughter, "Then if you don't stop eat and get so wagga wagga, which man I go on to? And see how me keep myself, I'm ever look good. What you mean?"
Mm-hmm.
And again, if we look at that cultural lens,
Yeah.
that kind of comparison, I mean, I haven't seen the 11-year-old for a long time. But I have often, I didn't come from a house where those things were said. And my grandma was small and my mom was big and I was big, right? But I wonder the impact that those things will have had on the 11-year-old, and where that then goes with this comparison of, because you are bigger, you are less than, because you are bigger, men won't want you. So yeah, I have seen it, but not, you know, and you know what I'm like, Trisha, anyway. I'm cool, innit? All day, but if you mash my corn, I'm gonna blow up your whole generation. That is now, and I say that not from a place of that's just my that's just my react that's not my response. And I think part of the mother wound also is that we don't teach we in the Black community, we teach do something, but we don't teach be ready for what comes back. And I'd like to say that at this point, I think we're very good at saying, you don't take it, don't have it, but we don't really equip ourselves equally for what may come back. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Or as my dad would say, don't bring a spoon to a gunfight. Right, you want to fight, right? You want the confrontation, but you brought a spoon, brother. You don't know what's coming back this way. Even
Yeah.
if it's done, so your spoon is ineffective at this point. And I think that's also, we teach our children sometimes, or mothers can teach children, or it's fine to be this stand up bad gal or whatever, but can you cope with what comes back on the other side?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, and you see that with parents, right? When I'm going to advocate for children on pexes and stuff, mum's got all of the vitriol, but none of the articulation that is needed to actually explain. And I don't think that sometimes about her. I think it's a learned thing, right? So I know how to go in there and tell about their BC, their RC, and their PC, but I can't actually articulate my emotions because I didn't see that modeled, and that's what I saw. I saw my mum tear up the place, and nobody couldn't chat to her. But actually, what it was an emotional dysregulation and an inability to articulate what it is you're feeling or what your expectations are. And that's something, again, I've had to, and I say this because I took a crowbar to my daughter's headmaster a couple of years ago. I say this as something, and I really mean that. I say this is something that I've had to learn, that it's fine to be fiery, but can you deal with what comes back from others? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Makes 100% sense. Whereas we've been in our kind of household, was definitely conditioned, don't go out there and make any trouble, don't be mean, be kind, but stand up for yourself at all costs, and whatever comes you deal with it. So that's always like always the mentality that I'll have now and that I have had. Also, one, I wouldn't say it's a mother wound, but one of the things that my mum definitely said to me at a very young age is not to code switch. Don't dim yourself down. Don't switch up who you are. Be who you are. So long as your heart is clean, you're a good person, be who you are. Be your authentic self. Do not code switch. But I do think that's made me run into problems in the workplace because I'm very professional, but I'm also very direct and I'm very honest. And that's not always welcomed. So
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? So I'm a very literal person as well. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. Um, and I'm not sure that that was always welcomed out there. Do you know what I mean? So it's yeah, it's interesting, but definitely was taught to stand up for yourself, stand by what you're saying, and deal with whatever comes your way in whichever way you're dealing with it. But again, I'm not. I do think that certain lessons serve you for certain times and certain periods, but I do think that when you've outgrown them, then it's time to change the narrative. Am I making
Yeah.
sense? So
Yeah.
you've outgrown that lesson because it served you for that time, but you're no
Mhm.
longer in that time. So
Yeah.
how do you evolve past that seed, or pull that seed out because it doesn't serve you anymore?
Yeah. It's the
Yeah,
awareness and the curiosity of why am I the way I am, or what made me do this, or what made me react like this, just like you were saying about your anger. What made that curiosity of self to find out, like, where is my authentic self, and let me question myself, not in a negative way but in a curious way, as in why am I the way I am, because that's how we start to break down these patterns, and see these patterns for what they are, and start the healing journey.
Yeah.
David Yardley says, I think black women being strong and outspoken and assertive, it's what's gotten them into what's gotten them the stereotype in society. Then they complain about how they're portrayed. I think it's time black women change their demeanour.
See, you again, this is not understanding. You're making a comment without the level of understanding, the level of love and compassion for previous generations. We're only strong, these strong black women, and we're being assertive and outspoken. We're showing up in that way because that's the mother wound coming out. So we're in a place now where we're questioning ourselves. We've got that curiosity about ourselves to change this.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is just
Yeah. It's fair. And
as a man, you just don't have a place here to talk about me as a black woman if I'm strong or I'm outspoken or assertive. You don't have a place here of any black woman, because you don't understand what we have had to go through and endure.
Yeah. I mean, to a point, I get what he's saying because it's been said. It's been said that. I'm interested to hear what you think our demeanor should be, because what you're saying is how I read that. I mean, there's a difference. Outspoken and assertive; those are not bad things or qualities or traits to have. So why is it deemed that if we are articulate and we have a voice, that
Let
actually
me,
you're feeding into the stereotype and you need to just change your demeanor?
I have it.
I'm interested to understand where that comes from. Could yeah, go ahead, David.
Well, I'm not going to ease up on Brother David. I feel that's an ungrateful comment for him to make as a black man, because if it wasn't for black women's assertiveness and their outspokenness, let us remember that it's been many of our civil challenges here in the UK that have been mounted and started and carried out on the labor of black women. So if we weren't assertive, if we weren't outspoken, if we didn't speak on the injustices, when we think of, we think of any of the civil actions you can think of. We think of, Sybil Phoenix, who started People's Day in Lewisham because she spoke out about, the fire in New Cross and nobody. There's been lots of black women who have used their assertive outspoken to challenge the system to get better for our community.
Yeah,
that also
right.
includes black men, and that they have benefited from. So that would be like me coming on here and saying that, I think it's a very broad statement. And I don't know David, and I don't know what his premise was for posing this, but let us, you can't. It's fine to hold it as a stereotype, but we as a community have also benefited from having outspoken and assertive black women and people in general. If we were all to sit down and be meek women,
Mute.
and we've never had the opportunity like our counterparts, our white counterparts, right? If you look at, this, I'm talking about post the transatlantic slavery episode, black women were often viewed in the same way that men were viewed. It's just that we had the added benefit for the enslavers of we could also produce children. So let us, when you say things like that, it really grates me, David, because I feel there's a certain lack of gratitude from people like you who hold that mindset, right? For what black women have given in terms of labor. I'm not discounting what black men have given, right?
Right.
Our children taken from us, being raped, not just by our fellow enslaved men, but also by the masters, having to deal and live with that shame. And a whole ream of things I'm not going to go through, but I think that was a very disingenuous question, and I really would appreciate if you came back and was more specific, because that kind of brandishing won't fly here. This is an intelligent conversation.
Change of demeanor. What is that?
And talking about stereotypes about being assertive, these are things that have been placed on us by whiteness, right?
Exactly.
For you as a black man to buy into it, it now makes me question not your blackness, but what's your premise for asking that? Because at the end of the
It's
day,
the reason I've asked, yeah.
it's white people that fear our assertive and outspokenness, right? And so they've given us this label, but we have to be outspoken and we have to be assertive because we're in a racial paradigm that requires closed mouths don't get fed, David. So at the end of the day, if we're not assertive and if we're not outspoken, if we're not articulate, if we don't make our demands, I can only imagine that your question is because there are people like you who want us to shut up so you can run game on us and that we'll have no response to it. So I'd really like you to come back with a more articulate response, more specific, and don't come here again if you don't have your ducks in a row.
Because I do think that we've had this conversation. Oh, it's come back. We've had this conversation many times about the fact that sometimes there's a difference between aggression and assertiveness. And sometimes, not just black women, but sometimes people will be outrightly rude and then say, "Oh, I was just being assertive." When actually, no, you're rude. That's that. But there, to me, there's a whole difference between being assertive, rude, and strong. Does that make sense? And I think it all gets muddled up in
And I think
the
purposely,
stereotypes, and I think
and
our
also,
men do feed that.
well, I think they feed into these stereotypes because the most aggressive thing that I've ever witnessed is a Six Love Dominoes match. Now, I have 7 uncles. So this Six Love Dominoes match could be between siblings, right? But the most aggressive, egregious things are said. And to an outsider who's not from our culture, it might look like
gosh.
you might need to call the police for. But actually, we know that that's a Six Love Dominoes match, right? And we know that everybody around that table loves one another, but they're in the throes of things. I think when we need to be careful how we label things around aggression and assertiveness, because as you quite said, Trisha, quite rightly, there's being strong, there's being assertive, and there's being aggressive. Now, of course, to whiteness, they will conflate all of those things as a bad thing.
Absolutely.
But they too have benefited. Where do you think DEI and all of these things came from? If it wasn't for us being assertive and speaking on the social inequalities, do you think there'd be an Equalities Act? It wasn't white people that suddenly said, "Oh, this is really bad. Let's make an Equalities Act." These were different people in different spaces who went out there, used their assertiveness and their outspokenness to campaign for change because this direct thing, disability, religion, affected them. If we were all to shut up and not say anything, where would we be?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So he's come back and he said, "How should the demeanor be? Pleasant, sis, respectful. That's all. But I don't think being assertive
Pleasant.
or strong denotes from you being respectful." But anyway, I hear the sister
Dion.
saying,
I know Dion is watching. I know Dion is watching. Dion. See?
I'm not
I hear the
pleasant.
sister saying it's what black women have been through. What is that exactly? Women from Iraq and Afghanistan have been through worse.
Wow. Okay.
They're not like that. How do you know, David?
You know that.
Worst is slavery, but that was hundreds of years ago. I'm a black man with close black women to me, including sisters, daughters, etc. So I think we all, as black people, need to speak about this.
Okay. Well, you arrange it, David, and we'll show up. You arrange it, and we'll show up to your community TED talk on why black women need to be pleasant and respectful all the time. Yeah, pleasant. What the hell?
What kind
of change your profile picture. Change your profile picture. It's giving. It's giving.
Right. Moving on. Do we think some mothers are actually in competition with their daughters? And I think I asked this question because I do think...
Didn't we cover this last week?
I think we did.
Yeah.
One. We did say something about mums being in competitions, mums that are just simply bad towards their daughters. And where do you think that comes from? Do you think that comes from mother wounds from their mothers?
Yeah. Definitely. I've seen it, not as a direct experience of my own, but I have seen it, and it's quite ugly. This one's quite ugly when the mother is jealous of the daughter. Yeah, because the mother's not in awareness of herself and her own wounds, and sees her daughter coming up, and she will just try and crush the daughter, give the daughter complexes, I
Right.
mean, going back to the body thing, I was told that I'm not woman enough because my breasts weren't big like theirs. And this
Okay.
is, yeah, and this is like in the family. This is when I was younger.
Right.
And that stayed with me through death row for years.
Yeah, it
I
does.
mean, and for me, yeah, that's out of jealousy and competition.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's definitely there, and it's definitely due to the mother wound as well.
I hear you. I think we covered this earlier. I'll talk about the link between mother wound and money.
Yeah.
Oh, how does the relationship with your mum affect your ability to earn or keep money? We did speak about that. I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
thinking about that. Why do some women sabotage themselves just as things start going well financially?
We talked about that too, did we
Did
not?
I
we?
think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it possible to heal? Is it possible to heal without confronting your mum? Did we talk about that?
No.
No, I don't think we did. It definitely is. I think I tried to. Um, I think when you start this work, when you start to be curious about yourself, the first thing is to try and go and talk to the parents or the mum. I was shut down. So
Right.
yeah, I was shut down. Um, I don't think it's not a step that I needed to take. I thought that I needed to take that step. But in
Right.
hindsight, it's necessary. You don't need to confront them. You can write them a letter and don't send it while you're, going through what you're going through. You can do that, so you don't have to go to confront them, because their identity, their identities is set in stone. So if I now go and bring back and said, look, this is what I went through, they're going to receive that.
Yeah.
And that's just going to cause even more contention. That could even cause me to go and start second guessing myself, to cause me to continue to shut the door on my own authentic self and just don't bother with healing, because I've confronted my parents and they've completely just
Shut it down. Yeah.
shut it down. Do you know what I mean? Or got no understanding, or even go to the point where making me feel like I'm a mad woman, So I don't feel like it's necessary to go and confront. More like you were saying before, see them as human, hold compassion for them, because they have done their best. Even though it might not be good for you,
Right.
that's all they could do.
The tools that they were given. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all they can do. Do you know what I mean? And even in situations where the mother has turned a blind eye or been in denial of the abuse, the sexual abuse that we've all had, that a lot of us have had to go through, I have to hold compassion.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you don't, then that's sour. You're going to just end up on some sour route, and you're going to move away from just dealing with your own stuff and being authentic and start bringing out your light into the world. This is what this is all about, bringing out our light, bringing out our gifts as well, because a lot of the time these mother wounds as children, as we cast a shadow on ourselves, we don't bring out our gifts and our the blessings that we have to give to this world. We're not bringing
Right.
those out. So sometimes it's just best to, we all know our parents, if
get
they're
on
still
with it. Yeah.
living, just get on with your own thing. And if necessary, you can write a letter to them. Even in my own work, when I take my clients into hypnosis, whether the parent is there, as in living, or they've passed on,
Yeah.
you can go and speak to them. Even when they're living within hypnosis in the work that I do, you can go and speak to them and have
Yeah.
your closure of that situation, and they don't even have to be involved. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dion makes me laugh, Dion said, I'm confused by David's comments. How can he compare our consistent struggle with women from Iraq and Afghan? Granny used to say you shouldn't speak just because you got lips. In this case, just because you pay for Wi-Fi, should you type such uninformed views as facts? Well
Yeah.
said.
Well,
Thank
all I can
you.
say is I called for the genie, and you see what the genie wrote. So
Yeah.
I'm not,
Thank
I
you.
don't say
Thank
anything
you.
else.
Dion, Dion, women watching the steams coming out of their ears because it's the same conversation that I had with a man before the show. That I just don't feel like we as women, black women, are protected, and it seems like an awful lot of our men view us in this way. And like I said earlier, I stand by it. To a point, I get what is said in some instances, but strong, assertive are not bad traits to have. They're only bad to have if you're a black woman, and that's not fair. And we have to look at why we see it that way. You know what I mean? But yeah,
Even he needs to go and start looking at his own mother wound, because everything
basically,
what he just said is coming from his own mother wound. I'm sure
yeah.
that there are other platforms right now, there are other healers that can help him with his mother wound. We're doing this work here. Please don't bring that in here.
That
No.
energy here. Yeah.
Yeah, just keep
Change,
that.
change,
We've
change the
got him.
profile picture, David. Change the profile picture. But in answer to what does healing the mother wound actually? No, not that one. That wasn't the question just
Now
now.
I just moved on to the next one. Is it possible to heal without confronting your mum?
I think I don't think I think that I don't think there's one response to that, and I say that because confront. I won't use the word confronting. You know, God has been good to me in terms of my journey from trauma, and for those of you that don't know, both my brother and myself and my children and our wider family, we took care of. First my father died in 2014, and then my mother in 2018, and my mother's care became quite critical because she was in the house with my brother and my cousin at the time, and social services said, listen, if we need a competent adult to be here, and if your daughter doesn't come here, we're going to put you in a hospice. And I remember her, crying and saying, I don't want to die in a hospice. And at the time, my mother wound was still quite live, right? So I was, well, why should I come and take care of you? For a start, my mum, I was with my partner, but I wasn't married. So that wasn't going to fly for her. And she had all of these things that weren't going to fly. And I was like, well, if you need me, then you have to accept these things. And in the end, she relented. And we had a very, very difficult conversation, but it's a conversation that, again, in doing the work and reflecting, was the beginning of my healing, where my mother said what it was. So my question to her was, why did you stay? Why did you know that he did these things to me and you didn't do anything about it?
Right.
And she said, well, because I knew that you could take it. And I was, my flabber was gasted 100%. And but now that I'm an older parent, right? Then obviously with a young daughter and young sons, I was very like, what? This woman is wild. How can you say this? And not that I don't say this to justify what my mother said, but I understand, and because I now see her for the woman she was and not just my mum. So for me, it was having that conversation was the beginning of the healing, because I was so Like, you need me at this point. You're dying and you need me, and you could still be honest enough to say, I knew that you could take it. And then she said,
Right.
well, what was I supposed to do? I had your disabled sister and your brother. I had all of these other, my own health issues. I stayed because, well, I knew that if we went to the police, they would take all of you away. You know, based on, you would all be in care, and then how does that look? And then I would have failed as, and there was all of these things. And now that I work in those spaces with other parents, where as Sister Eve said, shame, the blankets of shame that we are wrapped in as Black women. And again, let's teleport back to the time that my mother would have had us. This is the mid-70s into the early 80s. Which, if you look, society, we were rioting, right? We were talking about stop and search. We were talking about the racism that we were experiencing, right? We are all children of that era. My mum wasn't going to rock up to the council anytime soon to say, or the police to say what was going on in her home. She just wasn't about to do that. And she wasn't about to do that because, and this is a bit of academics here, you know, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw speaks about intersectionality. And the reason that she invented the term, not the sole reason, is because often in these spaces, when bad things happen, Black women are coerced by Black men to think of their race first and not their gender.
Right.
So you're coerced as a group to feel, well, don't say nothing about it, because you know we're all Black, and you know already how we were looked at as Black men, right? So your immediate thoughts go to the racism you will experience outside of your community. If you go and get help, if you go and get not help, if you bring this to the police, right, who are there for a reason. So the first thing you have to confront is what you owe to your race, not what you owe to your family or your gender, your race. And
race is true.
100%. So I think this is really important to say that, and in my work, I often write about it, that Black women in their decision making, anything happens, a woman is killed by her, you know, ex-partner. When you write these, we still have these old adages of, don't expose us to the white people because it's going to make us look really bad. Not that this really bad thing has happened.
Right. Yeah.
The white people, you can't do, man. You're a sellout if you do. Nah, man. And there's this whole bartering that goes on in these intracommunal conversations where constantly Black women are expected to forego their gender and forego the abuse in lieu of not making Black men look bad.
Yeah.
I feel that part of it, so going back to the question, which was, you know, does having the conversation help? I hear what you both said, you can get on with regardless. But for me and for people like me who needed closure before we could heal, who needed that kind of, so why did you let this happen? I think having that conversation, if you can, or as Sis has said, writing, whatever it is, there are some of us who just moseying on out there and getting on with it won't work. Sometimes we need to have those conversations with the facilitator of our abuse, almost, right? And we need to understand the thought process behind some of those decisions you made when we were children and had no voice that kept us all in this place. And for me, I was able to have that conversation. I then did move in and take care of my mum. And it was one of the biggest honors of my life to see life leave the body that gave you life. That was a whole bar.
Sure.
To watch the body that gave you life leave this life is something I will never forget. And there was a lot of honor in her passing because we'd had the conversation. So this was woman to woman, mother to mother. I sat down at my mother's bedside and I was like, so what's the jig here? What was your thinking? And she was able to explain. And yes, it was very painful. And yes, her responses hurt me. But I finally began to understand. I began to understand
Her thought process.
what it was, what her thought process was, how terrible her marriage was, how my mum felt conflicted to stay with this man that she knew was abusive. But where was she going with 3 small children and one of them completely disabled? Like this is a mum. I've been with my mum when people would not help her onto buses. Remember, she's got my sister. We've got a double pushchair with her and my brother in there, and all the bags that we've needed for the day at hospital. I have been in London when white people have literally mowed over us to get onto a bus. All of those things, people. I've been there when older Black women have said to my mum, we talk about mother wounds. Let's talk about disability. I have been present as a small child of 6, 7, and 8. But older black women have said, you can't, then I want to put her in a home. Why when you have a old and see she a dribble and snort and you put her in a home, man, it's much better for them when you put them in a home. So understand, I've been there. Like my mom's only 20 years older than me, so I'm 7, she's 27. This is a 27-year-old young black woman with 3 young children who's been told by older women who've got their own mothers, don't bring your disabled child out here. It is embarrassing us.
Right. Yeah.
I think all of that knowledge that kind of reaffirmed her decision making. I don't say it justifies it, but what it did give me was the ability to see her as a woman and not my mother. And I think that was
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, like, make an emphatic point on that, because there won't be everyone that can just walk away and get on with their lives. Some of us need to have those conversations, and where you can and you have opportunity to do so, I would encourage you in the most respectful way you can to confront your mother, whether it's through email, letter, conversation, FaceTime, but have it, because it can then be the beginning of the healing process for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Definitely. I guess if they're open to having the conversation, sometimes it can be seen as an attack, or their face can look.
In my experience, it was an attack. And it's just, it wasn't worth my energy to stay there in that kind of attack. So I just had to just leave it.
Yeah.
And just get on with my own healing. And that's again why this is not about blame. Do you know what I mean? Look at Donna, you just spoken about your mom and the amount of compassion I even have for your mom, even though the situation she was in, that's the best she could do. So she had to make choices, but they impacted you in a way that you're like, Mom, why did you stay? What? You don't understand why. You're 7 years old and you don't understand why.
Yeah.
And
it's also my lived experience, right? It's not my lived experience. I'm the generation after. Mm-hmm. So it's not my lived experience to have all of those contextual pressures. I don't have a disabled child. I've raised my children in a time where ADHD and ASD and all of these things are catered to and for. My parents, my father, clearly, schizophrenic can sometimes be, genetic. My brother has it, and I tell you off the top of these glasses, I swear to God, if my father was a young man now, he would be diagnosed as a very high functioning schizophrenic. There's just no other explanation for it. Not bipolar, the full thing, the full bottom sides and drinks, the full thing. But again, it's about understanding, even for my father, that they've grown up in a time where, if ADHD was available to the whole of the Caribbean, everybody would be on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Because the amount of trauma that we have survived, and I'm talking about the whole, you can talk about the whole world, but we're speaking specifically about us, and we're from that heritage, right? We would all be on the spectrum. So it's understanding that these are people who had needs that weren't even seen.
Yeah.
And they were raised by people who weren't even seen, who were raised by people that weren't even seen. So how that works out in terms of trauma, intergenerational trauma, is that, as Sis has said, her was read as, well, you're attacking me. How dare you question my parenting? I did the best I could, which is true when you've survived enslavement, right? We've done the best we could.
Yeah.
But again, it's about but this is now a parent to a child, or a child to a parent. And again, for us, I'm a parent here. It's taught me to open up myself to be held accountable for my children, which I tell you has not been easy.
Yeah.
So it's not just about us now, the 3 of us on here talking about holding certain parts of our parenting and our lived experience. It's also opening up ourselves. Trisha, your nieces and nephews asking, well, do you understand when people come to question? It doesn't have to be our direct children. It can be children that we have raised within the family dynamic, questioning our decision making and holding us to account. That's not for the weak, but I think it is part of the healing that we pass on this openness to the next generation. Yeah, you can question me. You can hold me accountable.
You can.
Yeah.
And we can say sorry when we're wrong.
Right. I had to learn that, to say sorry to my children.
Yeah.
it was challenging at first, but I had to say sorry and say sorry and say sorry again and again,
Yeah.
and have the openness. I'm having such open conversations with my son right now to say, I wasn't told this. I wasn't shown this. So I now have to show you this. And this is part of the healing. This is part of breaking these cycles of deprivation.
Yeah.
Is to actually say, I didn't get this. I didn't get sat down and taught about money, what money really is, what budgeting is. I didn't get taught about that, about paying bills or nothing. I just was pushed out there and pay your
Figure it
bills,
out.
figure
Yeah.
it out. Do you know what I mean? And I only had one way, which is to go for working a job. Like,
Yeah.
but that doesn't suit who I am. I'm not a 9 to 5 woman.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm a businesswoman. I'm not that doesn't suit for me. But I just had to just get on with that and just learn
Yeah.
all of these things while I was just out there. So I'm now trying to tell my son, no, I now have got to change through my own healing, be open and tell him these things. A lot of
Yeah.
my upbringing, I lived in this kind of, a lot of things were left in denial. And when things are left in denial, for me, I was very sensitive to energy.
Yeah.
So growing up, nothing was spoken about. There was no explanation for nothing. But I'm picking up all this energy. I don't know what it is. This kind of nervous, stepping on eggshells kind of energy. I'm picking it all up.
Yeah.
The amount of things that were bungled under the carpets and fling in the wardrobe, I, as a sensitive child to energy, I picked that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now
And
I've picked up,
underestimate that.
where is that
Mm.
to go? It's still here. It's still playing out in the patterns. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Like,
the whole word then, sis. Yeah.
in relationships for the sake of thinking that kids can't pick up on the energy and that it's an unhappy household anyway, they it still can be quite damaging. So sometimes it's better to just not do that. Um, Next question is: do you think we've touched on this? What does healing the mother wound actually look like in real life?
Hard work.
It is, because in general, healing is ugly. If I fall over now and I bust my knee, it's gonna look ugly.
Yeah,
It's got to look ugly. Sometimes it could even get worse. The pain could get even worse before it gets better. So yes, healing is ugly. So let's just put that out there. But it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding in that I now start to trust myself more.
right.
I now start to value myself more. I trust in my decisions. I'm trusting my intuition. Whenever those feelings come up or I get those messages from spirit, I'm trusting those. I'm not trusting anyone else's on what this is saying, or family or friends or this. I'm not trusting it. I'm trusting what my intuition is saying, and that's what I'm moving with.
Yeah,
That's what healing, the trust of self, me. I trust me. I trust the decisions that are good for me. That is definitely the beginning part. And then you just start to attract more situations and circumstances that reflect that trust that you have in yourself. But initially, it's not nice. I've got to look back at the person I was, and I've got to love that person who I was, even though that person has done things that may have not been good. I've got to love every version of myself that made me here right now. That's also part of the healing. to love every version. The version of you that stayed in the relationship way too long. The
Amen.
version of you that said, yeah, I'll do it. Yes, when really and truly it should have been a no. The version
Yeah,
of you was walking around, didn't even know that you're supposed to have boundaries. You know what I
yeah.
mean? The version of you that was violated, you have to love that person.
Do
And
you
that
think
takes guts, that takes bravery.
it does take bravery? Do you think that in parts of healing that there's different versions of yourself that, or like you just said, there's versions of yourself that might not have been the best? How can you write a just basically close that chapter or forgive that chapter,
Oh,
or
sorry, your internet went out. You started to say, is there an
oh, did it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
What I was saying is, like you said, there's different versions of yourself, and there's some versions of yourself that might not be the nicest person or the best version of yourself. And you said that you have to love all of that, love everything in its entirety to really fully accept yourself, which I agree with. But past versions of yourself, is there a way that you could just basically say, okay, well, I'm no longer that person. So not close it off, but forgive and let go? Versions of yourself that are not necessarily here to
Yeah,
serve
I
you
mean,
at your best state now?
Can I
well,
respond to that?
okay, go on.
I was going to say one of the things that we're not taught is that development is part of life, right? So you develop and you change, and you there are certain seasons where you were this person, and now you're this person, and this is part of life, right? A human being is supposed to develop and grow. We're not
Yeah,
here to be, stuck in 1980s for forever. You're supposed to develop and grow and have different seasons, and I don't think it's necessarily a marked point of saying, well, I forgive that. It's about developing and growing, and people that know you. I now work with one of my senior managers where I work is somebody I went to school with, and we will often laugh about, she's older than me at school, but we will often laugh about school days, and how we both were. And I think that's a beautiful thing when you can, this is the beauty of friendship and sisterhood, right? Because there'll be people listening to this now that be like, well, this is, my friend Anne often says, if only they know Donna who would lift up a brick and do your car. There is that version of Donna, but now there's a Donna that's discovered peace, and not that the warmonger is in retirement, but I, 6 and 7. Do I go to war over this, or actually, and that's come through development and growth, right, Trisha? And
Yeah,
what we don't teach is that this is supposed to happen to a positive, non-toxic human being. You're supposed to go through phases of life. We talked about that thing that goes off in your head when you turn 50 because you realize you've got more miles behind you than you have in front of you, right?
right.
That's because we've developed. This is because we're understanding now that this portion of our life is really about doing and accomplishing certain things and actually pleasing yourself and not others, and all of the stuff that we've said previous to now. So I don't think it should be marked by saying I forgive. Maybe you do that personally for some, but for me, I like thinking about Mad Donna, who had two children in a buggy and took off the nappy bag and beat up the girl outside the police station. And when my kids like, Mum, do you remember that time when you beat up that woman? And all three of us say, not that I revel in it, but I'm like, and look how, and this is the Donna that 2 years ago ran for MP. Look at that. We're supposed to have development. I don't think we talk enough about it, and so therefore, when people
Right.
develop, they change. Them get rich and switch, or they think that no, it's supposed to happen.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's supposed
yeah,
to grow.
And I think that's part of a mother. I don't think it's a mother wound, but I think it's something that we don't talk about. You're supposed to change, and even in relationships, you don't stay the same. You're supposed to grow and develop
right.
different tastes and likes, and this is about enjoying the full variety of life.
Yeah,
Mm,
But we
yeah.
stifle ourselves often by living under the and these often come through mother wounds, by the labels and the things that the boxes that people put us in, and we adhere to them. Nah, I'm not doing that, Trisha, because I've realized there's more miles behind me than they're in front. So what I'm going to do is enjoy my life on my terms, and that's what I feel about that. Like, in terms of apologizing for the past, or dear Donna, really sorry about your temper and glad that you've discovered peace now. No, that Donna is still in here on a bad day, stuck in traffic. That Donna is,
yeah.
but again, acknowledging my growth and development and different interests that I've developed in that time. I think that's part of liking yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I absolutely, like, one of my neighbors is watching and she's seen me throw a bin on a house or do different things when you trouble my mum or you do, like, but so like I said, my temper is mean. I don't think that my temper should control me. I definitely at this age need to be able to control it. But what I do like about myself is I don't start trouble, but I will defend myself. So I'm not gonna go out and you'll never catch me poking a fun, like poking an argument and poking the bear, and I just don't do it. But I will defend myself if I have to defend myself or my family, and I like that about myself. I do think that with maturity, though, you've got to pick your battles.
Yes, but
And
but
then,
for me, sorry to cut you, Trisha, but for me, when we start to what we're doing then is we're compartment. Then what we do is we replicate. We start to mirror on ourselves the external influence. So we start to compartmentalize ourselves, right? So that was me then at that point. It's the same you.
It's the
yeah,
same.
it's always going to be the same you. I guess I
100%.
think maybe what I'm trying to say is sometimes as well, there it. Let me find my words. Sometimes you've got to just be able to leave people in their own filth and be. Do you understand? Because sometimes you're going somewhere, and a person will deliberately try to pull you out of your destiny or your path, and for your weakness is your temper. So let's dig this way and pull you out of your destiny. When actually you have got to know how to leave people in their own filth. So do you know what I mean? And I think for me, like I said, learning to not pick up every single argument that did come from, because I remember someone put it in the group and they said parents who tell their children to hit back are part of the problem, and that caused uproar. So there was some people were like, well, I know business if I'm part of the problem. If you hit my child, I'm telling my child to kick your child in the face. Your child, you're part of the problem if you're not telling your child to not come and hit my child. So it was like a real big debate in the Facebook group. And then I said it to my mum and she was like, well, I stand on the side of if you hit me, I'm going to hit you back. What the hell? Do you understand what I'm saying? And I'm still always going to be that person. If you physically assault me, I'm going to defend myself. But it's learning to not have to defend everything. Sometimes just leaving people in their filth. So for
Yeah,
me,
but I love all of that. I think the same, and I think this is part of the healing. So I'll share it. When you get to the point where you don't forgive your parents, you don't forgive your mother, but you acknowledge, you see her as a woman, or you see your parent as the gender that they are, right? Given
right,
all the things that we've talked about, you have to love all of it, because it's still. So you see, the Trisha that would have kicked somebody in their face and the Trisha that's now, I love all of it, because it's because that is still you, and that's part of your development. And I think
and that
that
Trisha that will kick someone in their face will still do it if it's necessary.
100%. So
But trying not to, yeah,
no, but
try
my
not
point
to
is,
rise to everything, if that makes sense.
in terms of the sister, I hear that definitely. We're trying, and
Yeah.
we're not doing those things, but in the sisterhood, if we can't accept the whole person, sometimes you have to forgive people for who they are. where they are, and you have to. I don't say leave them in the filth. I know what you mean. There are some people who blatantly need to be left in shit, but sometimes you have to see that this is just who they are, and you either accept the pieces that you can accept them, or you can't.
Right.
And so I think that's something that I've also learned, that, you know what, I would want this person to be this way to me, but they can't be this, they can't be that. And so you love them and you leave them and you move on. And I feel that when I say we, I don't mean us three. I mean, like, like almost like a societal response, we start saying, we pick the good things from the bad things. The same assertive, outspoken person is the same person who is also a defensive, responsible person. Does that make any sense? So we have to love all of it, because it's all part of their journey. I don't know if that's made any sense, but that's kind of like
it does make sense.
Yeah,
it's making sense. It does make sense. And it's basically what Eve was saying earlier as well, is about loving yourself in your entirety. I remembered going through a therapy session, and my therapist asked me how I felt about myself, and I was explaining all of the good traits that I loved about myself, and that, I'm kind, I'm loyal, I'm generous, all of the good parts. But then there were some parts that I didn't like, and she was like, "Okay, well, I don't think that you can confidently say that you like yourself, because you don't like yourself in your entirety." And it was a bit pill to swallow, and I didn't agree with her, and we argued for a couple of sessions on it. But I think I get it now. You have to love yourself in your entirety and understand yourself in your entirety. Does it, and understand?
Yeah.
yeah. 100%.
The loving
Yeah.
of self, you have to love. We are like, even love your darkness, love the dark parts of yourself, those hidden parts, the parts that you think are not so good. You've got to love every single part of
Yeah.
yourself.
Which is where I feel like I am at.
Love your bad habits, whatever bad habits you perceive as bad habits. You've just got to love every single part of yourself, and it does take the work to be able to love every single part of yourself. I remember I was in a relationship, and I was doing too much, and in my doing too much, I wasn't appreciated.
Right.
I was taken advantage of. And I have a temper.
Right.
Yeah, I can be really, really rageful, really, yeah. So sometimes it's even scary.
Yeah.
But I've learned over the years that I prefer this version of myself, even though I
It's a
know
nice place to
it's
be.
there. I love to show up for myself in this version. But rage and that anger and that roll at my face, that's there. My mum taught me that it's all there,
Right.
But yeah, I was in this situation, and this person was just really just taking advantage of me. I had cooked all of this food, and I was just getting real lot of disrespect. And I purposely switched into that darkness, my dark,
Right.
to show them a point. Just because I show up like this, don't feel that I can't show up like that person. And I
Right.
went in the fridge, I pushed them over. I went in the fridge, my voice was up there. I was cussing. I went in the freezer and took out all of the containers of food. They're talking about 15 containers of food that I brought to the house. I took every single one out and I smashed them on the floor. I was like, you don't know. That person is still here. I love that person.
Right.
And that person can come out at any moment. But I choose to show up like this. But yeah,
Yeah.
that person is there. It's there.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of
And
cleaning up to do because I smashed every single one on the floor.
it pissed you off.
Yeah. But I love to show up like this. But I also love that side of myself as well.
Yeah. I definitely get that. I definitely have a lot of love and a lot of respect for both dark and light because it's duality and it exists in all. There can't be dark without light. And
Yeah.
we talk about love and light all the time and living in your light, but without, you wouldn't understand your light if you didn't understand your dark.
You need the contrast. You need the
Yeah.
contrast. So yeah, I love every part of myself, including that side. So
This question, we're coming towards the end. We've got how many slides have I got left? Yeah, 23. And we're 26. And we're on 16. So we might call for part three at some point. But is overspending or underspending connected to emotional safety?
Read that again, Trisha.
Is overspending or under earning connected to emotional safety?
yes. The nervous it comes back to our nervous system. Our nervous system has almost like a wealth thermometer in it.
Right.
And if you don't feel safe holding a certain amount of money, if it's programmed to hold a certain amount of money, then you will attract circumstances and situations that put you in a place, and you attract bills, you attract everything, you will overspend because you're going to always be at that level of safety. It will always bring you back to that level of safety.
Right.
Similar thing, what was it? Under earning, under
Earning
they're
connected to
all
safety.
connected to how safe you feel, to be seen, to be heard. It goes back to your value and your worthiness. It all goes back to it. So, and it's set almost on like a barometer, like a temperature kind of gauge. So
Right.
you have money and you just come right back down to here. You have it.
And that's connected to mother wounds because we're taught
Yeah.
how. Yeah.
Sometimes money's not even brought up at the table. One of the biggest, I want to say hook, or maybe it's not a hook. I can't find the word now, but one of the things that has affected us as women is having this thing of men are the providers and they're the breadwinners and they're the ones that were controlling the finances. I mean, there's a point where my grandmother couldn't get a mortgage. Okay, you had to go via a man to get a mortgage. You know what I'm saying? So we're coming from there. You know, women are not allowed. We weren't allowed to manage our money. Our worth came through our dowry. All of that is still sitting there. It's just been passed down. It's still sitting there for us to actually question and get curious about and deal with. So it's all still sitting there.
Right. You want to add anything, Dee?
Yeah, I was gonna say, from a quasi therapeutic perspective, also spending habits make up for mother wounds. So people, when I've done when I've worked with women who they've got extreme spending habits, even though they might not be working, it might be their universal credit money, but they spend. when you do that kind of therapeutic backfilling work with them, it's often from a place of hurt, a place of trauma. And so the one thing that makes them feel good, it's like a fix, right? But so it's not long lasting, is to have new things, is to buy things, is to feel that despite their economic status, they are keeping up with everybody else. And we, at this point, we give praises for ClearPay and Klarna, because it can be that was a joke, but people are often hiding spending habits, not hiding the spend. What they're hiding is the trauma behind the spending habits, and that's something that also comes from mother wounds, right? That comes from trauma that has not been spoken of, and so it comes from a need to always kind of to feel needed to place that value, and you place that value through things, right? For the
material things.
There's no value here, so it is
right. So it's a gaping hole, and conversely, in relationships with men, so I've known of women who they haven't got it, and it's, let's not talk about that part. They haven't got it, but they will spend to acquire men, because whatever that maybe that, and you speak to this, something that they saw, they knew that their mother didn't have it, but these men that would come in and out throughout their childhood, where the mum would place the importance and value on a man, and what the man needed and wanted was something that they learned, and they've modeled that behavior now that they are adults. So it's not about, they've also put the man first, because that's what they lived. That's what they saw. You know, he got two pieces of breast, and we 4 children, we had 2 wings and 2 legs. Do you understand? It was always and so that, again, when you speak to them, that comes from a place of seeing it, and also that, you know, we went without, but mum's man, he got everything. Mum didn't have it, but she would show partner to give this man stuff.
To impress the man.
So when we talk about spending habits, it works both ways. One, either to keep a man in your life, or to attract men, and also to make yourself feel good. It's a form of false. What would you call it? My mother would have said it was masturbation, but it's a feeling of, you know, a full sense of ecstasy for the hit, but you have to
Rosemary's saying the spending. That's
right, Rosemary.
Dopamine hit.
Thank you, sis. I appreciate that. Dopamine hit. And so it's, again, when you do that work, and how do you backfill that then? How do we get you to feel that you don't need to do this to accommodate for what you don't have? And again, it's about getting people to reflect and go back to that place. And it can be a very dark place. It can be a very dark time that they have to revisit. But I think unless you do that, you don't move forward in the same way.
Okay, I'm not going to ask another question, because it's 3 minutes to close of the show.
Oh,
but again, I thought another brilliant, insightful show, ladies. We're definitely going to call for a part 3. We'll finish in part 3 at some point, I'm sure. So, but yeah, no, definitely brilliant. So Kemi, where can they find you? Talk about what it is that you do a little bit, and give out your social media and so on and so forth.
It would be lovely to have a part 3.
It would be.
Thank you to the both of you for everything you brought to this space today. Your wisdom, your knowledge, your energy, your presence is so beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice versa, love.
And yes, and thanks to myself as well. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to part 3, because we haven't even touched on beliefs. Our beliefs. I really would love to have about our beliefs. So roll on part 3. You can find me at Kemi Love. That's KHEMILOVE, good old love, on most of the social media platforms. And I'm all about safety in our nervous systems. I've currently got a 21-day journey going on right now, where we journey through your nervous system and bringing you to a place of safety within your nervous system, because that there is the foundation to everything. If you want to attract anything in your life, it has to come through a safe and regulated nervous system. So, yeah, thanks for having me again.
Oh, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And like I can personally say, I've done therapy with Eve, and it was one of the most exhilarating, insightful, interesting experiences that I've had. I was a bit nervous about the hypnosis kind of because I was like, well, am I not going to be able to wake up if I need to wake up? And like, I found myself a quite a curious person. So when you was like, oh, your eyes are closing and your eyes are going to be heavy, I naturally wanted to see if I could open my eyes. And I was like, no, but they're actually heavy. And then it was like, no, but actually you can't. It's really bizarre. But I think part of that is trusting the process, not having to control everything and then just letting go and seeing what happens and what actually comes up. And
Yeah,
for me, some of the trauma that came up as physical pains in my body, and it was
yeah,
really like, wow, you
yeah,
took, and then you could feel like literally feel the trauma making its
yeah,
way through your body. So then you had to basically acknowledge it and then ask for it to be released. So now when I do certain work independently, I know what to look for, I know what it is, and I know how to kind of like, all right, calm yourself a bit. You know, like if I still get like, I wasn't an anxious person, but then developed anxiety around my court case, and now it's just trying to level that back out. So when I feel it coming, I kind of know how to deal with it now, if that makes sense. And
yeah,
yeah, say a little
yeah,
affirmation and thank it for
yeah,
being there, and say you can go now,
yeah,
and just release things out of your body, because if you don't, they turn into cancers, they turn into,
yeah.
stress turns into high blood pressure and this and that and that and this.
Yeah.
So it is really about looking after yourself and yeah,
Bringing
just
it,
looking after
yeah,
yourself.
bringing it back to the body, because the mother wound has actually severed that. So we're not listening to, we're not in a place where we're listening to our bodies. It's been severed. So this is now about bringing it back. So we're listening to our bodies, because our intuition speaks to us all the time. It gives us clues all the time, but we're not connected with that anymore. We've moved
Yeah,
away from that. And a lot of the time, just quickly, my son, he had this pain, like a throbbing pain behind his eye. And maybe someone else, a different mother, would have just gone to a couple of Nurofen and just maybe drink some more. No, I took him. I said, "Do you want an RTT session?" He said, "Yeah." He's 16. I took him took my son into therapy. We actually went to speak to this throbbing pain to find out, why did he create
is
that?
it what? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And it had a genuine purpose. So he just adjusted it and gave it a new role within his life. But I'm now teaching from going through and being connected with my body and understanding when the body is saying something. I'm teaching
yeah.
him to do the same thing, to acknowledge how you feel, what are you feeling in your body. So I'm glad that it worked for you, and
It
that when
definitely
you do
has.
feel these things coming, you're able to be like, let me work through this, rather
Yeah,
than it's not happening or you
yeah,
don't know what to do.
yeah. Definitely, definitely. It's worth doing. Um, Rosemary said, "Ladies, you need a part three, and then a hall for questions and answers. Fantastic session. Too many of our queens are still living in trauma. We need to share our stories and start self healing. Absolutely, I agree, 100%. Nothing greater than self love and self peace.
Come on, Rosemary. How you mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's our show. I definitely will organize a part three. Because we will touch on beliefs and finish off I'm sure I've got beliefs in there somewhere in these questions. I have to go back and have a look, but we will touch on that and continue the work, because the conversation is encouraging someone to go and look at or start the ball rolling in some way, shape or form. So proud of this conversation and can't wait for the next.
Yes.
Love you all.
Love,
Thank
love,
you.
love.
Thank you
Thank
guys for
you.
chiming in and for being here. And please feel free when we do our sessions to ask your questions in real time. So even when we're talking, ask a question if it's relevant, and I'll be more than happy to read it out. Also want to thank all of the No Bravado members for keeping the group active and alive. Our numbers in the group are insane. Like, we get like 300,000 visitors a month, and it's been consistent. So people come in, they watch, they comment, they post. The group is actually a vehicle all on its own, and that's where a lot of our activity is. So if you're watching on YouTube, head over to Facebook, join our group, join the community, and give us your comments and your posts and your whatever it is that you want to talk about. Throw it in there, and we'll chop it up on the show. I just want to thank you guys for your continued support. I want to thank you, Donna, because you've been with us from the beginning, from we start this thing, and you've got your own stuff going on. You're really busy. You've got so much things going on, and you always make time to come on No Bravado, and I love you for it, and I really respect you. So thank you so much. And Eve, we're going to see you in part 3, my friend. You're going to be a regular fixture now. Watch me pulling you out. But no, it's a great conversation, and I look forward to part 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take care. Have a great week.
Right.
Yeah.
All
See
right.
you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.